I'm John Guerin. I'm Managing Director for Lumen Forest Products in Europe, and I'll talk a little bit about what I do in a few minutes. But first of all, just to give a little bit of background of I suppose, how I got to where I am today. I originally did a degree in timber technology down in the University of Limerick, as it is now, Thomond College back then, finished in 1989. In fact, it was a degree at the time to train teachers in wood and construction technology. Then I did a master's degree in the University of Wales in forest industries technology, and that kind of, I suppose, set me on the track to where I am today. In that program, I did a master's thesis on the development strategy for the pulpwood industry in Ireland at the time. When I finished my master's degree in the University of Wales, I returned to Ireland, to Clonmel actually, to a company called Medite as a quality control analyst, where I worked for about 18 months. That was a very interesting role. I got to see the production process, both from actually all the way through from the intake of logs through to the finished product, and looking at the control parameters, at every piece in between, including refining and forming and testing the panels. And this was done on 24-hour shifts, 7 days a week, to control quality. But it actually opened up a lot of other interesting avenues also. I got to meet customers and clients for the first time, got to visit clients, particularly if there were any quality issues, and report on that, and occasionally get out and meet clients for dinners and so forth. After 18 months in that role, I went to the USA, to the University of Maine, to study for a PhD in forest products marketing. That was a 3-year program between taking some classes and doing a thesis at the time, which was on looking at factors affecting purchasing of European buyers of North American goods, primarily hardwood, softwood, and panel products. Close to completion, I got an offer of a job from my employers back in Medite to come back as technical director, actually, which was a couple of levels up to where I was previously. I was stepping in more into a more senior management position in the mill. After a couple of years in that role, I also took on the logistics function, which at the time Medite were the second largest exporter in Ireland of basically trucks to international markets, and so I certainly would have learned a lot of negotiation skills and I suppose understanding the supply chain much better than previously. After 5 years in that role, I was offered a position of general manager for a fairly significant particle board mill that was producing around 400,000 cubic meters of particle board a year down in the southwest of France. I suppose the experience gained up to that point prepared me somewhat for that role, but certainly it was a whole new challenge and a very exciting part of my career, I suppose, or work experience over the last couple of decades. One of the big challenges was learning the French language, which I worked very hard at for the first 5 or 6 months, and managed to get to an acceptable level to work beyond the management level in that company. So in 2006, Weyerhaeuser, who were the owner of our business at that stage, exited the European market. They sold the businesses to other companies. The businesses continued to thrive, but I was given the opportunity at that stage to work and be a team member of a very innovative, sustainable business that they had been developing in Uruguay over the previous decade or so. This business was in Uruguay. Weyerhaeuser had been purchasing land since the mid-1990s with a lot of support from the government and the communities in the area, and had created sustainable plantations of eucalyptus and pine, and also had used silvicultural techniques, including pruning, to make these plantations suitable. We work very closely with the local communities in where we grow our forests and where we have our industrial assets today. We have over 750 employees between our forests and our industrial assets. In that regard, we built a first plywood mill in 2006 to process the timber that was coming from the plantations. And at that stage, my role was to develop a market in Europe for the products we were producing. And I basically had a blank sheet at the time. Today we have very developed clients in Scandinavia, continental Europe, the UK, and Ireland, and further afield in places such as Asia. Our business model is based on sustainability. We have external third-party certification in terms of our product and chain of custody, such as FSC. More and more, Europe and the US particularly, we have very stringent legislation to ensure that timber products are coming from legal sources and sustainable sources. There's no question today that world resources and wood is a great example, are under a lot of pressure, and we need to really work on sustainable sources going forward. One thing I've noticed over and over again is when we bring clients to Uruguay and you bring them into a 16-year-old eucalyptus stand, basically they just stand up. And I think the penny drops that this is where the future fiber source is going to come from. The growth rates are tremendous. The trees, we use clonal technology in Uruguay, which basically means the trees are all very similar in terms of properties and colors. And we also use pruning to ensure we get as much clear lumber and veneer as possible. So certainly it's going to play its part going forward as demand increases and resources become more constrained.